I'm a little late. I know. I was on the road and I was in my car and I actually tested it to see if you could see me so I could maybe do a remote broadcast from I-75 Expressway. Hi, Chris. Good evening and welcome. Thanks for being here. Yep, it's me, Shannon LaBruyere. I am live and loving it tonight. Thank you for being here. Paula, hi, so glad you're here. This is amazing. So glad to be able to join you on the first Sunday Night Live of 2019, which is pretty awesome. Love the hearts. I heart you too. So glad to be here. I hope you had a safe and powerful New Year's, however you chose to spend it. It's just a wonderful time to be able to reset the calendar. You know, you turn the page and all of a sudden all of last year is left behind. And how many of you are glad that a lot of last year is being left behind? As is always the case, not everything in 2018 was awesome. It's sort of nice to be able to just pull that new calendar out, look at it, it's fresh and clean and new, and it really does feel like a clean slate. So I hope that you're enjoying your clean slate of 2019, and I'm glad that you've chosen to pop in and join me for a little bit of inspiration about how to thrive in change. Thriving in change is what my motto is. It's what my little tagline is, and it means something to me. It's close to my heart that people thrive. And I got to thinking, as I was reminiscing, or reflecting is a better word, reflecting about my 2018, what does thrive in change, what does it look like to thrive, really? What does thriving look like? And so I pictured in my head what it looks like to me. And to me, I pictured a plant. If you wanted to chime in and let me know what you picture when you picture thriving, I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments, and I'll certainly appreciate knowing your thoughts. What does thriving look like to you? But to me, thriving kind of in my brain looks like a plant, a beautiful plant that's flourishing with beautiful green leaves and fruit, like maybe oranges, like a beautiful orange tree or a lemon tree. Just when I picture thriving, that's what I picture. Just something that looks vibrant and lush, and that is, I think, absolutely an accurate picture of thriving. But when I talk about thrive in change, that isn't always the plant with the flourishing leaves and the beautiful lush fruit dropping off of it. Actually thriving in the midst of significant change, in the midst of tension and stress, in the midst of changes that we didn't invite and we didn't want. When I think about thriving in those kinds of changes, the picture is totally different. It doesn't look like a plant with these lush leaves and all that fruit. A person who's thriving in the midst of change that is difficult and hard, a loss, a death, the loss of a job, the person who's thriving in the midst of that doesn't have all these beautiful branches just waving in the sun, you know, so exciting. The person who's thriving in the midst of those significant changes, those stressful changes, often looks still. Hi, Dot. Welcome. I'm so glad you joined. Yay, Dot. So good to see you. Dot, we're talking about what thriving looks like when we're in the midst of significant change and transition. And a lot of times that's stressful change and transition. And so let's talk a little bit about what happens to us when the significant changes come. Maybe the change that we didn't want, it came suddenly. Maybe we expected it. It was a loss, a job that went away, a relationship that ended. A lot of times we are still. A lot of times we can be feeling like we're in chaos, we're confused. A lot of times we're in panic, we're in denial, we're angry. There's so many emotions that can pop in when we're in the midst of those kind of changes. But if we're going to thrive in the midst of them, it doesn't matter so much what we look like on the outside. It doesn't matter if we look like we're thriving and doing great. It's not a show. Thriving in change is not about pretending that everything's okay. Thriving in change is not about faking it until we make it. To thrive in change is how we are treating ourselves and what we're willing to accept, what we're willing to do with the things that come our way. It's about the soil of our heart being loose and crumbly so that the lessons and the good can still seep in, even though there's a lot of hard things happening on the outside. It's so tempting when we're going through stressful change to harden our heart, close it off, seal it up, nothing's gonna hurt me. You know, we put our fingers in our ears, we hum loudly, we pretend like nothing's gonna get to us. That's not thriving, that's just flat out denial. When we're in the midst of stress and hard change, Kathy, welcome, so glad you're here. When we're in the midst of hard and traumatic change and stress, in order for us to be able to thrive in the midst of that, it's important for us to keep our heart, the soil of our heart, loose and to not harden it. And that's not always an easy thing to do when we're in pain and we're suffering, but it is the key to being able to receive love from others who are trying to help us and comfort us. It's the key to being able to see that there's hope on the other side of whatever traumatic situation we're going in. The 4 pillars of Support Life, and I've talked about these before, the 4 pillars of Support Life are this. When we're going through significant change and transition, the first one is to bring the honor. We can be people of honor, and we can behave as people of honor. We don't have to be treating others like they're treating us. And even if it's a terrible situation that we didn't want, there's still a purpose for us being there, and there's still something that we bring, because there are no accidents. We're there for a reason. And when we're people of honor, no matter how dishonorable those circumstances around us, there's honor there because we brought it. And my friend the police officer summed it up for me so beautifully when we were talking about the Support Life process. And he told me how he had been through extreme trauma in the course of his job. He'd been with people who'd been in car accidents and passed away, people who had taken their own lives, serious, horrible situations. And when he learned the Support Life process and just started looking at it, not as a horrible piece of his job, but that it was an honor to be there during that time, and that he had something to bring, to share with those other people, it transformed the way he saw that terrible situation. And no matter what situations we're going through, if we're going to thrive, if we can remember that we're people of honor, that we bring honor to whatever situation we're in, that we mean something, that we matter, and we can treat ourselves the same way that we would want others to treat us, and we can treat the situation that we're in, excuse me, we can treat that situation as something that allows us an opportunity to bring honor to it. It'll transform how we come out the other side. The second thing, to thrive in the midst of change that we don't want. It doesn't always look fun and exciting. It's not the great times when everything's paid off and we're successful and our job's great and our relationship's awesome and we've got everything going for us. The key to thriving, and what thriving looks like when we're going through those tough times, is that we can respect the now. So that's the second piece of thriving in change. Bring the honor and respect the now. It is what it is right now, but it doesn't mean it will stay this way. It is temporary. And so as you are going through 2019, whatever comes your way, you can know that you're going to thrive if you keep that soil of your heart soft so that the lessons can drip in. And one way we can keep ourselves from closing everybody off is letting ourselves know, reminding ourselves, This is happening now. This is real. It's bad, but it's not going to stay here forever. It's going to end. We won't feel as much panic trying to, I don't know, micromanage everything. Wes, I'm so glad you joined. Welcome. All right, the third thing is when we are going through significant change and we are not loving that change and we want to be able to thrive in the midst of whatever situation that is, trust the process. There is a process. Whatever thing we're facing, there is a process that will get us through it. We just have to trust that that's going to happen, that it's not, we don't have to feel like we're going to be stuck forever. Things are going to keep moving. When I was, a few years back, I had a health setback where my kidney started hemorrhaging, and it was awful. And what was really awful about it is that this has happened to me before, several times, and I thought it was over forever. I didn't think I was ever going to have to face that kind of a health problem again. I thought it was done. And it came at me, and it was vicious, and it was painful, and it was really, really frightening. And then when I got home, they prescribed me some medicine that lasted 24 hours. So it was one dose, and it would last 24 hours. And I took that medicine, and it made me unbelievably ill. Unbelievably ill. And I felt like I was going to die. There's just, I don't want to say I wanted to, but it was bad, people. It was bad. I was sick, really, really sick. And all I could think of for that time when I was so sick was my body is processing this medicine, and it is going to be gone in 24 hours, in 23 hours, in 22 hours. And my body did process it, and it did pass. I knew that there was a way to deal with it, and that if I would just trust, it was going to work. Now, I don't know what situation you're up against. I don't know what kind of change you're in. There are different processes for different kinds of significant change, for sure. So, death and grief and divorce. But the bottom line is this. Know that there are steps and there is a process. And the key to that process is knowing that you can't necessarily change what you're in, but you can take steps that will keep you moving out of it. There is a process. In the Support Life model, the process is this: to ask questions, to be open, to not try to boss everybody and everything, but to ask the questions that need to be asked to keep things moving, to find out what you need to know so you can keep moving forward. Taking action in the midst of all that is not always easy, but it's a key to thriving. And that's what thriving looks like. It doesn't always look like the end result. Sometimes there's the middle, and the middle is not good, but you can keep walking. The last thing is to find the beauty. Hi, Frank. I'm glad to see you. Welcome. Kevin, glad to see you, my friend. All right, the last piece. What does thriving look like? Finding the beauty in the midst of our transitions, our significant changes, is a powerful tool that we can use no matter where we're at, no matter where we find ourselves, that allows us to see that there is something besides just this dark place that we're in. So find the beauty means, like Mr. Rogers says, look for the helpers. Who are the people out there that are working hard to make things better? Focus on them. Look for the beauty in the midst of where you're at. What are you gaining that you couldn't have gained otherwise? That's not going to just always smack you upside the head. You've got to do some looking for that. You've got to search it out. You've got to intentionally look for beauty sometimes. But when you look, it's always there. There's always something. I'm picturing that plant like I started with today. The plant that's flourishing, and the leaves are growing, and the fruit is just bulging off the branches, and it's just beautiful. It's obviously in perfect health. It's doing great. It's thriving. That's what we all want to be. But a plant like that doesn't start the process looking like that. A lot of times there's some cultivation of the soil that has to happen. There's some compost, some crap that gets shoved down there to try and feed the roots. If that's where you're at right now, hi Gina, I'm so glad you're here. If that's where you're at right now, just know it's your choice. If all of that junk, that compost that's being put on you in this stage, if you keep your heart soft, keep the soil turned up, you are going to be able to get the nutrients, the good out of all that junk, and you'll be able to thrive later. We don't always show those leaves and Robert, hi, I'm glad you're here. We don't always show the end results of being a thriving person, but we can be in a stage where we're still thriving. It's just that it's not showing on the outside. We're taking one day at a time. We're bringing the honor to the situation we're in. We're respecting the now, honoring what's happening right this minute. Yep, this is bad. I know it's bad. I'm not going to pretend it's not bad, but I know I'm not going to stay. Trusting that process of getting out of it, and then through it all, finding the beauty. So I don't know about you. What does thriving look like for you? For me as a person, I look forward to 2019, and I think this is what thriving looks like. I've got a vibrant client base that I'm serving well and that is growing because of the work that I'm able to do with them. That to me is a sign of thriving. I've got a beautiful relationship happening within my family. The different relationships with my children, with my grandchildren, those are growing, and they're getting closer, and we're doing things that matter together. We're getting to know each other. My grandchildren are young, so as they grow, we're getting to know each other as people. That matters to me. My husband, my church. There's so many areas where I want to thrive, and I want to see all that fruit, and I want to see those beautiful leaves, and I want to see that lush tree. But some of the phases of those relationships and those things that I want to thrive are still in the stage where there's some fertilizing happening on the roots, and I'm sinking those down deep so that when the branches start and the leaves start, there's actually something good to root them in, and it will last. So I hope for 2019 that you have not just your fair share of your roots getting fertilized, but also you have a good amount of leaves and branches and fruit. That's my hope for you. I'm hoping that this type of an interaction, this Sunday Night Live that I do, is something that will feed your soul. I hope that you're open to whatever changes are coming your way, even if they're not the changes you want, that there is something that they can bring you that will feed your soul, that will allow you to thrive in the midst of them. Might show the fruit later on, but while you're in the middle, it's actually going to be, there will be something in it that you can get. Like a young lady I did a job interview with, she had a great way of putting it. She said, oh yeah, she was talking about some of the more, how do I want to put it, the more hard-nosed managers that she'd worked with in the past that weren't always kind. She said, oh yeah, those bosses. She goes, I figured I'd just take the meat and leave the bones. She said she was just going to take the good that they could offer, the wisdom they had, and all the rest of it, she was going to leave it behind. So I hope that you choose to take the meat, leave the bones, be open to what you can gain, even in the midst of some of the more challenging changes that will inevitably come to all of us over the course of the next 12 months. And if you've got any questions or concerns or comments about ways to thrive and change, or what kinds of change you've seen ahead that you'd like to thrive in the midst of, I'd love to hear about it. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate and I'm honored that you jumped on, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you, and goodbye.